You know, for over 2,000 years, we've been staring at these figures carved from stone, just trying to get our heads around their power. We call it beauty, we call it genius, but what if it's something more? What if it's a code, a hidden message about perfection, emotion, and the very nature of being human, just waiting to be deciphered?
Just look at this. This is the Apollo of Tenea, and it's a really early step on this long journey. You can see that rigid, kind of formulaic pose, right? That's a clear nod to older Egyptian art. But you also see something new starting to bubble up, a subtle life, a hint of naturalism. And that tension between the formula and real life is exactly why we're still so captivated by these ancient stones. The answer is way more complex than just, oh, they're beautiful.
So first up, why do we still stare? Let's get into the enduring allure of these sculptures and figure out why they really are the foundation of Western art.
We're going to explore this idea that these statues are so much more than just pretty objects. Think of them as artifacts of a philosophy, a radical, game-changing idea about what a human being could be, and maybe even should be, literally encoded in marble.
Okay, so let's look at the first part of this code, the hunt for perfection. Classical Greek sculptors weren't just trying to copy the human body, they were trying to perfect it. They were convinced there was a mathematical key to unlock the absolute ideal human form.
And they literally wrote it down. A sculptor named Polykleitos created this treatise he called the Canon. Think of it as the ultimate rulebook for artistic perfection. It was a step-by-step, number-by-number guide to creating the perfect human figure.
And to prove his theory actually worked, he created this masterpiece, the Doria Phoros, also known as the Spear Bearer. This statue is the Canon, brought to life. Every single muscle, every limb, every proportion is the physical result of his mathematical formula. It's pure theory made real.
So what were these rules anyway? Well, the core belief was that perfection wasn't some happy accident. It was a science. It was achieved, as one ancient writer put it, little by little through many numbers. Beauty was all about the perfect relationship of every part to every other part, the finger to the hand to the forearm, and all of it to the body as a whole, a complete system of harmony.
Now, this idea didn't just pop out of thin air. It came from philosophy, specifically from Pythagoras and his followers. They believed the entire universe was governed by the harmony of numbers. So Polykleitos just applied that same cosmic law to the human body. He was convinced that the same ratios that govern music and the planets could create a perfect human being.
So the Greeks had cracked the code for physical perfection. Case closed, right? Well, not exactly. Because what happens when mathematical perfection just isn't enough? What if the goal isn't just to sculpt the body, but to sculpt the soul?
A new generation of sculptors, led by a master named Skobos, started a full-blown revolution. He looked at the calm, serene perfection of Polykleitos and basically said, that's not the whole story. He swapped calm grandeur for spiraling, dynamic movement. He replaced mathematical harmony with raw, pathetic expression. And pathetic here comes from pathos, the Greek word for emotion. He wasn't interested in the ideal form. He was obsessed with inner psychology.
This quote just says it all. Skobos was like a sculptor-psychologist. He pioneered this style, carving figures with deep-set, shadowed eyes and mouths half open, as if they're caught in a moment of pain or passion. For the first time ever, an artist wasn't just showing you what a person looked like, but what it felt like to be that person. So, we have these two towering figures, Polykleitos, the mathematician, and Skobos, the psychologist. And this all leads to our modern idea of the great masters, these lone geniuses who changed the course of art history. But let's do a little reality check on that idea.
When we think of the golden age of Athens, we think of this place, the Acropolis, and one name that stands above all the others, Phidias. He was the artistic director of the whole Parthenon project, the absolute superstar sculptor of his day.
For centuries, his name has been totally synonymous with genius. This poem from 1818, which was written when the Parthenon sculptures first arrived in London, captures that legend perfectly. His fame would be told loud as 10,000 thunderings. He was, and still is, considered the ultimate master.
And yet, here's the twist. For all that immortal fame, not a single surviving sculpture can be attributed with 100% certainty to Phidias himself. Not one. The Parthenon sculptures? They were carved by a massive team of dozens, maybe even hundreds of artisans.
Our whole concept of the lone great master is pretty much a modern invention.
So if the individual masters are more myth than reality, what really survived? What's the true legacy of Greek sculpture? Well, it's not the name of a single artist. It's the idea, specifically the idea of the canon, the belief that beauty could be defined by a formula. And that idea, it never ever went away. This statue, the Doryphoros, is basically patient zero. It's the original blueprint, that mathematical formula for the ideal body that would just echo through Western art for the next 2,000 years.
And here's the proof. Almost 2,000 years later, as Europe was coming out of the Middle Ages, the Renaissance rediscovered classical art and texts with this incredible, feverish intensity. Artists like Leonardo da Vinci became completely obsessed with this ancient knowledge. His famous Vitruvian Man is a direct attempt to reverse engineer the Greek and Roman canons, to once again find that perfect, human-centered harmony of numbers.
The canon's long shadow stretches all the way to us today. The Pythagorean ideal of the decad, or the number 10, echoes in our pop culture idea of a perfect 10. And that search for ideal ratios and proportions, it's alive and well in everything from fashion photography to cosmetic surgery. The idea that beauty can be measured is a direct inheritance from the Greeks.
Which leaves us with a final thought to chew on. Your sense of beauty feels so innate, doesn't it? So personal. But how much of what you find beautiful is really your own discovery, and how much is just the faint, 2,500-year-old echo of a code, a formula for perfection, first carved into a block of stone?